And if any one of you here, sitting here, is interested in doing research, earning a name for himself, earning some bounties, so this is the PPT or the presentation that you should look for. So I'll take another 30 to 35 minutes to explain my experiments with truth, which is in fact a novel by Mr. Mahatma Gandhi, who is known as Father of India. Okay, so we'll proceed and keep your questions for the last part. Hopefully I'll be able to answer all of you, considering the fact that there is not much turnout today. Okay, so who am I? I don't want to read these things. And for day job, I'm employed with Adobe Systems, Bangalore, India. And on weekends, I love doing application security stuff. I'm a hardcore application security enthusiast. Enjoy reporting bugs to organization. The best part is actually receiving their response. And to convince them it's really a very important bug and they can be harmed using this. And this is my Twitter handle. Obviously, I want you guys to follow me. That's why I have put in there. Okay. So I'll start with some sort of news. What is happening around in application security field and why application security or crowdsourcing of application security is coming into picture. So if you see the left part, this is some news which is being lately there because of the losses that companies are making. And these are some of the big names in the industry. And if you see on the writer side or the pop-ups that are coming right now, you will see the bounties that the researchers have received. So if you try and equate these things, you would feel that companies really want to spend a lot of money in securing their web presence. There are a few more. Okay, so I don't want to get into the details of these news which are there. So you can see that Facebook has paid this much amount to hackers. So these are basically independent researchers that work and report bugs to organization. And there are certain benefits, which I'll be talking in a couple of slides. Couple of next slides. Okay, so before I start with my methodology, I would like to give you guys a brief overview of what exactly is or are bug bounty programs. And why is it important for companies and the researchers. Okay, so bug bounty is basically involve crowdsourcing. So someone in India, someone in Barbados, someone in Cape Town, all these independent researchers contribute to the community. They report bugs to the organization, and this is known as crowdsourcing. You are actually using the power of crowd to have your application tested. It involves responsible disclosure. Okay, so what exactly is a responsible disclosure? Responsible disclosure means when you are reporting something to an organization, you should not be blogging about it. It has to be confidential between you and the company. There are rewards. That's why researchers do bug bounties. They report bugs to organization because they get paid for it. They have t-shirts, they have swags. This slide basically talks about the scope of bug bounties. So we'll get into these details later. But on a broader side, it contains web application primarily, like 80 to 90%, products, and networks as well. Okay, I'll quote a little bit of history, how it all started, the crowdsourcing thing. It started like in 2004 when Mozilla started this involving researchers for getting security bugs from them. And in 2010, Google jumped in. And I think that is the phase wherein it started to increase from that point in time in 2010. And if you see after 2010, there has been a significant increase in number of bigger companies which are moving towards it. But one thing that needs to be noted here is that from 2004 to 2010, there are very less companies which joined this form of testing, which is crowdsourcing. But after 2010, 2012, you can actually see that two major companies have joined in. I've just put in slide only the major companies. There are obviously other companies which are there, which I'll be telling you in the later slides. Okay, I'm just trying to give you guys, if you want to have security research and you want to do security research, so what's in there for you? Why do you want to ever try this and invest your time in this? There is research and learning. We talked about it. So this picture shows the companies that actually allows or entertain independent researchers reporting bugs to them. And this is not complete. I mean, there are many other companies who are there. There is instant recognition. This is not me. Instant recognition, I mean, these companies have their Hall of Fame, and it looks very good on your CV. And someone with multiple Hall of Fames actually can show this on their CV, and it looks good, really. Money is not important, obviously, but these guys pay some amount. So obviously, if you are not looking for money, then you can do it otherwise as well. Now, what are the benefits to the organization? Why would an organization go for crowdsourcing? I mean, they already have their security team in place, and why would they have researchers from around the world doing their testing for them? One thing is, it is very easy to manage. You are not bound by the contracts, and you don't need to fire anyone. That is the most important thing. I mean, second thing is continuous testing. As we are speaking right now, someone would be testing your application from somewhere. So it is continuous testing, and you get results as soon as someone finds one. Market your security. So if you are doing crowdsourcing, you are involving market leaders like top researchers. You are actually blowing your own trumpet, and you are there amongst the top researchers. So that means you are talk of the town, and people understand that you take your security seriously. Diversity in tools, techniques, and approach. Someone in Russia might be having a different methodology to test than someone sitting in Australia. So you don't have to worry about following a particular methodology and missing on some bugs, because there will be diversity in tools, techniques, and approach. By the way, this is my picture from college, and this is me. I look a bit different here. And you only have to pay for results. You don't have to maintain a security team, pay their monthly salaries, and even then do not get anything as a result. So this is a very important point. You just have to pay for your results, and that is the one point that excites the organizations. Okay, so up till now I have given you enough information about what exactly is a bug bounty program, why would researchers involve themselves, and why would companies opt for bug bounty programs, what are the benefits. So this slide, I mean a couple of slides after this, I'll be talking about my methodology, how I started, and if you are a newbie in this field, just started with application security and wanted to do some security research, where do you start? What you need to do? So a couple of slides would talk about that. Okay, so this is the overview. pick the target, know the company, search for recent acquisitions, less traversed subdomains, useful information, and obvious vulnerabilities. I'll get into these points one by one and explain you with examples how you can actually have your crowdsourcing or research started using my methodology. Okay, so what exactly is pick the target? Okay, so these are the listing that is available over internet, and I can tell you the exact URL wherein you can find which all companies are there who entertain researchers, reporting them with bugs, and it is from Bugcrowd's blog. So you can actually see there that there are product and services which offer only reward. Then product and services, Hall of Fame and swag. So these company will put your name in their website, their page, and then they'll offer you some swag. And there are brokers and security companies which act as like mediatories between the researchers and the companies who want to go for bug bounty programs. Because company like Google, Facebook, Mozilla, Etsy, these companies can manage these programs. But what about smaller companies, startups? They need brokers like these companies to have and manage their security programs. Okay, so you need to go there and pick the target. Say, for example, you have nothing to do over weekend. So you can just visit this site and see, yeah, I want to target Google this weekend. So you can just visit this URL and see the terms and conditions there, because every company has a scope. And the URLs that are listed here will give you the exact scope, what you want to target, and which all applications or which all products of a particular company are in scope. So this is one recent, we talked about broker. So this is one recent broker, Synack, which are doing pretty good in bringing the companies and the researchers together. So it's a closed group. So you might receive invitation from your friends to join this. And mostly startups are in this, and they offer very good rewards, starting from like $500. And every company can allocate budget in this, and researchers can just go and submit bugs using this particular application. And once qualified, you get paid for it. Okay, so you can pick target either directly or using one of the brokers. Second is know the company. So know the company means you need to have proper information about the scope. Say, for example, say PayPal. PayPal have pretty specific domains which are covered under bug bounty. You are not paid or rewarded for any other bug that you submit outside scope. So know the company means you need to understand the bug bounty program of that company, and you need to understand the kind of business they are in. I don't know why I put this slide, so if you are trying to figure out. The third point, which is very important, is search for the recent acquisition of that company. You might want to target Google, but I'm afraid you'll not get much, like trying to hack google.com or something. So that's why, let me be very honest, you should try and narrow down your scope and look for recent acquisitions. Recent acquisitions, there is one thing that these companies are not as secure as their parent company, but are accounted for in their bug bounty programs. So you need to look for recent acquisitions of the company, which might be an easy target. Okay. Okay. Once you are done with the recent acquisitions, what to do next? You might want to search for the less traversed subdomains of that company. So for example, if abc.com is an acquisition of Google, you might not want to test abc.com as it is. Go and search for xyz.abc.com, which is a valid subdomain and might not be tested properly before moving to production. So we are actually trying to narrow down our testing scope and trying to find an area out of the vast web wherein we can look for vulnerabilities easily. Okay, so these are less traversed subdomains. Okay, so other than that, you can use very simple Google Docs. We call it Google Operators. Many of you would be using that. And it becomes very easy to actually locate the target pages inside the subdomains that we would have got in this point. So you can actually look for useful information. So what exactly is useful information? So directory indexing. Yeah, so by just doing a simple Google Doc like xyz.com in title index.off, it lists all the directory indexing for xyz.com. And second is critical files. In that domain, you may want to search for critical XML files or PDF files. So this will give you all the XML or PDF files in that domain. And you may want to use words like double quotes password or double quotes username after this. So that will actually give you all the files which have these words inside it. So it actually makes your testing much easier, and you are left with very few selected target which you can try other tests on. Okay, admin interfaces. This is also very interesting. And if you are just looking for bug bounties and want to report some kind of bugs to some organization, I would tell you that 9 out of 10 companies would accept this bug. They treat it very seriously. Even if you are just reporting that your admin interface is over internet. It might not look very critical to us, but from company's point of view, it is one of the serious bugs that you can report. And you can obviously try different attacks after you get the admin interface. Okay, so obvious vulnerabilities. Okay, before that, I just wanted to quote one story here. How many of you know Matt Onen's story? Can I have hands, please? Any kind of gesture which I can understand. Either no or yes. Okay. Matt Onen is the writer for Wired, and he was a normal guy like us. He used to blog. His only problem or the only mistake that he did was that his Twitter handle was @Matt. And he used to tweet from Wired and was very famous. I mean, he used to have many followers. So Russian hackers wanted to get hold of that Twitter handle, @Matt, which looks like very, very attractive. So what happened was, in order to get hold of that Twitter handle, they cleared all his internet presence. They cleared all his iCloud data. They deleted all his emails. And they actually don't want to harm him or anything, but on the way of hacking his Twitter account, all his web presence was gone. And I'll tell you how it happened actually. And it was not something like very critical vulnerability that they disclosed, or it was actually a cumulative attack that happened because of multiple vulnerabilities in Apple, Amazon, and Yeah. So first, what they did, they went to his Twitter account. In Twitter account, they could see that his Twitter account is linked to a Gmail. Okay. So you can actually go to the Gmail and type your email address and then say that you have forgotten your password. Then it asks you to reset your password or send your password to a different email which you would have registered. Okay. So unfortunately, Matt has registered his Me account that relates to an iCloud, and Google actually discloses last two letters. It does not actually graze all the email. So hackers could actually make out that Matt Honan has created a recovery account in iCloud. So now what they wanted to do is get hold of that iCloud email, your Me email. So there was a flaw in Apple. If you have your billing address and last four digit of your credit card, they can reset your email password, which got fixed after this incident. So they had their billing address. Matt Honan's billing address they can easily get from by just doing a Google, and his domain was registered with that particular address. So they get hold of his billing address. The challenge was to get the last four digit of his credit card number. What they did, they used another vulnerability in Amazon, which is if you call Amazon's help desk and say that you want to add a new credit card, they'll ask your name, they'll ask your email address, and they'll ask your billing address. That's it. And hackers already have all these information. So they could add a fresh card to his account, which was actually a fake card. So as soon as that card was added in Amazon, after 2 minutes, the same hackers called Amazon saying that they have lost access to this account, his Amazon account. So in order to get a password reset for Amazon account, what Amazon asks is your credit card information, which hackers already have, because it was the card which they registered, and your billing address again. So they managed to get access to his Amazon account, see all the credit card, but they only required last four digits to use it with iCloud. They took it from there, used it in iCloud, and from there get hold of his Gmail and deleted all his emails, and poor Matt Honan. So the reason I told you this story is because this is nothing like a big hack. I mean, vulnerabilities which arises from like a SQL injection or backdoor entry or some kind of malware. It is just social engineering and small chaining attacks that happen. So that's why I would like you to start with obvious vulnerabilities, which companies treat very seriously. Okay, default username and passwords, sensitive information disclosure, again admin interfaces, XSS, which is like everywhere, account enumeration. Okay, now I'll show you examples from my testing, how I am able to get these vulnerabilities in some of the big companies. These are very obvious vulnerabilities, and so default username and password. So this is the first one I got close to 7 months back when I started working towards this presentation. So I call it Google default. Okay, so when you see this, you would actually relate it to my methodology, what I have been telling you, like look for recent acquisitions and then less traversed subdomains. Okay, so I did the same thing. Looked for acquisitions of Google. I found invitemedia.com very interesting. I did a simple doc site, invitemedia.com, minus dub dub dub, which actually removed the main site from it and gave me all the remaining subdomains. And after doing it for like couple of iteration, I landed upon a page which was dashboard.invitemedia.com/login. It was a bid manager login. Obviously, if you see a login page, you will try and bypass it. That is what the hacker mentality is. You will try all sort of SQL injections, authentication bypass, parameter manipulation. I tried all these things, like for 3 to 4 hours on my weekend on Saturday. Then when I was about to give up, okay, so yeah, I tried these things and came to know that it has all the input validations in place. I tried a very interesting thing when I was about to give up. I tried admin and admin. And to my ultimate surprise, it worked. I was able to log in an internet application, that too from Google, and could see all the clients' data. I mean, I could see their reporting, I could delete clients. I got very excited, obviously, my first bug and that too that serious. Instead of exploring the application further, I could have reported certain other bugs inside it after login. I immediately reported it to Google, like in 2 minutes, thinking that someone else would report it. Google said, "What a catch." I didn't realize that was it what a catch. I mean, I just tried admin. Okay, and within 2 hours, I received this email. And if you convert this in Indian currency, it's a good amount. For admin, is it worth? So still I'm thinking, so no comments. And within next month, I was given a place in Hall of Fame, in Google's Hall of Fame. So I started wondering, is this simple? I mean, just did a Google search, landed upon a page, tried admin, and I'm there. I started doing further more on this. Because if Google can make this mistake, obviously there would be other companies who would be there with such vulnerabilities. Okay, second one which I got is not exactly the second one, but this is something interesting that I wanted to show you. I call it PayPal PII, because it is some personal information that is being disclosed here. This is again by using simple Google Doc. And if you see, there is customer email address that is being listed there. PayPal got all excited after receiving this. I don't know why. Because it has customer information. Again, admin interfaces, as I was telling you, by using simple Google Docs, you can actually use site:/xyz.com in URL admin. If it has an admin directory /admin, it will give you all the listings inside that company. This I got in Apple. Again, these guys got excited. XSS, it's everywhere. So the first test I think an application security tester tries is XSS. And I also got a couple of XSS, which are like very easy to get. Freebase, it's a company by MetaWeb, which was acquired by Google again. A couple of XSS I got in this one, reported it again. Jong is a PayPal service. XSS. Jagat, Google's acquisition. XSS. Cards.io, it's a PayPal service. iframe injection. Okay, so there are a couple of other, there are many more, but within the time frame of this presentation, I just wanted to show only the interesting ones. The last one is account enumeration, and I have seen this in 90% of the application that I have tested. I'm just quoting examples here that if any one of you wanted to have a look at it or give it a start, These are some of the vulnerabilities which are obviously there. I don't want to quote the name of the company here because the bug has not been fixed yet. Otherwise, it will not be a responsible disclosure. This was an interesting account enumeration using Author. There is a redirection flow wherein if you type, start doing fuzzing and provide certain numbers to it, it redirects to the user ID and you can actually enumerate users from it. It was in SoundCloud. Okay, so what is the current status? You guys would be thinking if you want to start, how late am I? Is it the right time to jump in? Or so I just want you to summarize the story so far and what is the trend. So as of 3/11/2013, Google has paid this much amount of money. And this is what accounted for. We don't know how much exactly it is. This is just from Google, and there are tons of other companies which are out there. 70% of the valid bugs are excesses, as you would have seen in my presentation as well. The examples were more, and I had 15 to 20 more examples. 44% of all bugs are the first and the only bug sent by a researcher. That means researchers start with the program, submit a bug, get an email that it is duplicate or it doesn't qualify, then they stop. So almost 50% are doing that. So you need to be patient. So you would be thinking that are companies with bounties secure? Certainly not. And with companies, there are challenges as well, maintaining these bug bounty programs. So I call them roadblocks. Cross-border legal issues. Your application hosted in Singapore, for example, is being tested from around the world. And legal laws are different as per your nation, as per your territory. And if something goes wrong, it becomes very difficult to track and make a corrective approach. So for example, your health information is not considered very critical in India. I mean, I can go and ask my friend to show me his medical report, or I can see anyone else's medical report. But in US, it's very critical. So cross-border legal issues, because some information is considered very critical at some point at some part, and it is not very critical at other parts. Sorry, I forgot to blur this one. So there are duplicates. You might receive same issue 15 times if you are managing a program from across the globe, and you have to be patient, and you need to have a proper mechanism to segregate those duplicates. So these are some of the challenges which companies face while managing a program. Fixing is very critical. I can report you as many bugs as you want, but in the end, you are the one who has to fix it. And fixing on time is very critical because these bugs are coming from researchers, and you never know whether or not these bugs have become public or not, because you don't have any means to check on responsible disclosure. So fixing on time is very critical. Okay, I think this is self-explanatory. False positive. There are people who just want to be on Hall of Fame or make some money. So they'll report you bugs which are of no importance, which are false positives. So which actually is troublesome because you have to segregate between the real ones and the false positive ones. And it requires a lot of time. As I told you, responsible disclosure is hard to comply with from a company's point of view. You might be trusting the researcher out there, but you don't have any means to actually judge whether or not he is doing a responsible disclosure or not. because there are tons of researchers out there, and companies cannot actually keep a check whether he is blogging about it, whether he's telling these vulnerabilities to his friends. So it is very difficult on companies' part. So what is the way forward? It is obviously the best model for security testing because of the reasons that we discussed earlier. And it involves diversity in tools, techniques, and approach. You don't have to maintain your security team, and you only have to pay for results. You can do it for making internet a safer place. That is up to you, because it is good to report a bug to a company before a hacker does and exploits it for malicious use. It is a win-win situation for both researchers and the company. Both are on the winning side if you follow crowdsourcing. And if you are a researcher that is actively involved in doing bug bounties, it increases your security awareness because you are in line with the latest trends in the industry. You are testing the top-notch companies. You are dealing with the top-notch technology. So that actually increases your security awareness. So these are the references and questions. Any questions?
My question is, how much money have you got?
I cannot hear you.
Okay.
And I cannot see you as well.
Yeah.
Any more questions?
Come on, guys. That makes me feel that I was very good in presenting. Okay.
Everyone is shy.
After last night's party. So thank you everyone for having.
Thank you very much for the presentation.
Yeah, thanks.
The teams for the extraction point will meet at 11 by the extraction point station, and everything will start at 12. And now I invite you for a break.